All right. Welcome to another episode of the Programmatic Digest podcast. I am your host, Ellen Parker, and I have one of my favorite people I've met last can, Albert Thompson. How are you doing, Albert?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I am just peachy. I'm excited about today's conversation. We're going to talk about the future of programmatic. We're going to talk about SPO. We're going to talk about data. We're going to talk about this new shiny thing called attention. I don't know if you heard about it.
I might
We're
have
gonna
spoken
talk
on
about
that.
yeah, yeah. And AI, maybe some AI will throw into the conversation. But before we even get to this, how about you tell us, take a couple minutes to tell us who you are, how you got to where you are, and maybe give us a little bit about your journey.
Okay, cool. Well, listen, thanks for having me on. Absolute pleasure. So Albert Thompson, Managing Director, Digital Innovation at Walton Isaacson. I
Yeah,
just tell people like we're a full service but culture first agency. So we do a decent amount of multicultural work.
that's
Been there
nice.
16 years, been a hell of a run. I think, when I look at the business of advertising, for me it was no accident. Like I knew I wanted to do this in high school.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, oh, yeah. Junior year, I already knew. I think for me is I need some of the amateurs to get out the sandbox and go do something else, go find another job, another career, another sector that speaks.
Oh
That,
boy, this conversation starts right. Okay, y'all know what's about
look,
to
the bottom
happen.
line is there's a lot of lack of intentionality because there's a lack of passion in the
Mhm.
business. So I've never not been passionate about it. Always treated it like my craft. Always been on the agency side. Um, Almost my entire career, minus like 6 months, honestly.
Mhm.
Mostly at multicultural agencies, doing Black, Latino, queer, little bit of Asian, and then some international work. So I'm like a tactician. Like I consider myself like a real practitioner. I always tell people like I'm a marketer's marketer. I'm not really an agency dude like that, or an agency rat as they call it. I'm not a digital guy. Like I'm a marketer.
Mhm.
Uh, and I'm that guy that like marketing is the parent company. It's not advertising. It's not media.
Right.
It's
Mhm.
I think some people have lost sight of that. So without further ado, we'll get into some of the dialogue and things we're going to talk about. And I'll
Mhm.
help sort of set the frame as to what the 2025 view should look like, in particular for programmatic.
Yeah. So give us your three. I hate to ask this question, but I feel like this is how we're going to segue into today's conversation. Like, if you had to tell us 2025, you have to look for those three things, why and how. Like, what would be your three things? Let's get into the first one.
Hmm. I mean, if I were really to think about three things, and it's a series of things, but I think it's three
Okay.
things
Okay.
for this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I think programmatic has a lot of promise. I think the value chain is outdated. And the value chain, I mean everything in the middle.
Okay.
Brands are built on supply chain. Okay.
Mhm.
Product design, manufacturing, shipping, distribution, wholesale. That's all. That is all what marketing starts before you get to advertising promotion. Programmatic, in the same sense, when you start looking at supply,
Mhm.
creative, data intelligence, that's all the things in the value chain. Who is piped in between native partners, CTV partners? Not all of it is good stuff, or some of it's outdated stuff.
Mhm.
Some of this has been rooted in because they're preferred partners in backdoor deals. But at the end of the day, the value chain needs to be scrubbed, as with anything. And I think that is where the inherent laziness is. So that would be the first thing, the value chain.
Okay. The value
Second
chain.
thing, yeah. The second thing is AI is going to come for everything,
Oh yeah.
literally everything. And it's definitely going to come for what do they call them? Never have, the never wills, the never wants. All the people in the organization who don't want to do anything different and they
Mhm.
just block everything because they're not interested in change or being
Mm.
left behind.
Really interesting.
I think is going to find all the mediocrity in the space.
Mhm.
And that's going to be a huge thing. So, again, AI would be the second thing. I do think creative optimization is going to be a big conversation.
Mm.
When you start to look at when you look at technologies like Instramatic, Anoki, Adventure, when you look at companies that are going to measure that, your ad skates the world, your Adelaide, your Explains, your Lumens, your T Vision, that part of the entire space, I think, gets inherently scrubbed uh,
Okay.
because we've left so much to the machines. We forgot that storytelling and brand building is the only thing that matters. Again, that's that marketing is the parent company.
Yeah.
Marketing is about storytelling to consumers, and programmatic has no intelligence around storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, the number one way for consumer to buy your stuff is still word of mouth,
Yes.
period. That's why Amazon is Amazon. That's what happens on this episode, right? It's like some people say, I'm gonna buy the first product, I'm gonna leave 4 or 5 stars review. It doesn't even matter what you say sometimes. You just look at the 4 or 5 star and the amount of people that bought, and that's more than enough. That's word of mouth. It's like, oh, I bought this thing, buy it too.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Mhm. What we should what we should do in programmatic media is use it as circuitry to increase, to multiply, to maximize, to to really increase the reach, right? So I think word of mouth is still like, I don't know if we can speak of scale in terms of scale. If it's done right, you can get the scale out of it. But what programmatic should do is really increase whatever word of mouth has not reached yet. And you're right, we forgot this time. We get really excited about the technology and we forget everything else. Everything else. It's like, what do you think we should go with? Like, what's the best DSP? I'm like, well, it depends. Which one are you trying to, what are you trying to do? If
Well,
what,
it's interesting you say that. Two things you said that are like, the first thing is this idea of scale. The
mm-hmm,
idea of scale is all about the brokerage of waste. We have all this money, we have to spend it and get it off the table. Give me the area and ways in which I can spend the most amount possible and be
mm-hmm,
done with it.
mm-hmm,
The entire US population, 349 million people, are not buying any one thing other
yep,
than toilet paper, and they're
mm-hmm,
not even buying the same supply of it, and they're not buying the same brand. So
yeah,
everybody doesn't get the 349 million. Really, the real audience is 249 million
uh-huh,
because we know where the 100 million are.
mm-hmm,
Okay, in terms of ability, affordability, poverty, homeless, all that stuff. So let's
yeah,
just get that clear and reset the frame about the word scale. No one says find me high intent buyers who care about my client's P&L. That's what brands care about. But all
mm-hmm,
they want to talk about is this idea of scale. Then they talk about the front end of the machine, the best DSP. There's nothing wrong with any DSP.
mm-mm,
Internals that makes the difference. It's like a car. They all have the same wind tunnel design, the same clay modeling. Engineers have left one manufacturer for the other. That's why all cars are starting to look the same. Let's just
mm-hmm.
be clear. Let's look at Hyundai and Kia and how many designs they ripped off the Germans and other Japanese.
Oh, thank you.
What is internal, the value chain, it
Yeah.
is inherently the difference. And that's the conversation no one wants to have because at the end of the day, it's actually work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I like your reframing at scale. I think it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had with a lot of our brands and partners and clients in terms of redefining what skill is. So I like your definition of it. My name is Ellen Parker, and I am the CEO of Ellen Parker Consulting. Thank you so much for engaging, watching, listening to our content. Don't forget to subscribe to any of those channels and leave us a review and maybe share it with somebody if you think it makes sense. I want to let you know 2 ways we can work together. We are here as an education consultancy. That means that you can hire us on a one-on-one via our course or our program or for your team. It's very hands-on keyboard. Like I dive into the DSPs, the SSPs with you and develop internal processes. We do optimization boot camps and optimization workshops, analysis workshop, critical thinking workshop with your team. We're super hands-on, we're super engaged, and usually work with those teams for about 6 to 12 months, either on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis. The second way to work with us is on a hybrid model. So hear me out. Most of us have a lot on our plate, and sometimes we just need to delegate some of this stuff so we can keep focusing on our magic. We also offer a hybrid model where we come, do the work, and train somebody to take over eventually, whatever that looks like. So if you're interested, make sure you email us at info@heleneparker.com. It'll be in the message. It'll be in the description of this video or in the show notes of the podcast. And always, thank you so, so much for all of what you do. And shout out to you for showing up today, yourself, and keep learning. I also had a question that popped up as you were talking about it, and maybe it goes back to one of the initial points about the value proposition, the value change within an agency, within a company. And I very often get asked to train a team, right? And so I'll go and I'll say, okay, well, here's the deal. This is what needs to be changed. You want me to change, you want me to train juniors, you want me to train the new person on the team. But in reality, I should be training your directors, your associate director, and then even their bosses, because they still have the same way of thinking, and these new people don't. They're
Right.
bringing fresh ideas, they're bringing new questions, they're bringing the new age, right? And so we have to adjust to the new age and also take what makes sense. And that's always a fight. That's always it's a longer debate, it's a longer negotiation. I have amazing clients that realize, like, we're going to train our juniors, but maybe we should also train the seniors. We should also train the directors of those seniors, because when they hear training, they hear, I'm going to teach you the basic fundamentals, when it's far from what we teach. Honestly, that's far from what we teach. And so I know you educate your client as much as I do. I know that you have a training program, but also you have an activation program. And so talk to us about how you address some of those conversations and give us maybe some example. Like, obviously we can't wait until somebody has on the baton or retires to start
Yeah.
having this conversation. So anybody that's working for Media Holding Company that's watching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple, iTunes, you name it, what is some of the conversation they need to have internally to help, like, people like us, to help them? Like, let me help you. Like, how can I help you? Help me help you.
The question of training, I love it. Here's why. People don't listen for three reasons. They're either they're three. They're either stupid, ignorant, or arrogant. Majority of the people are not stupid. Ignorance is only really you don't know what you don't know.
Hmm.
It is
Hmm.
the arrogance and feeling they don't have anything to learn from you
Hmm.
that makes them very dismissive of it, and nothing could be farther from the truth. You cannot hold the world's knowledge of information, and all the AI tools from ChatGPT to Perplexity to Claude are now proving it. It is impossible. There's
Hmm.
infinite stuff beyond our individual domain. That's why people are using this stuff on the sneak.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is the first thing. You have to find people who are not unsellable, because it's very difficult selling the unsellable.
Hmm.
But the way I look at it is like I've dubbed myself. I don't say I've dubbed myself. I've spent more time trying to be a futurist,
Hmm.
meaning I go off into the future, 2, 3 years, 5 years out. I
Hmm.
come back and tell people how much time they have left.
Hmm.
Because the reality is, if you tell someone how to win, they already think they're crushing it.
Hmm.
Work sucks, and it's like, no, you're not. But if you tell them they're about to fail,
Hmm.
no one wants to fail. Then they're more inclined to get all over it. You
Hmm.
almost have to spook people and say, look, you will soon be on borrowed time with your knowledge base.
Hmm.
I've set the clock. You have this much time. And here are the things you need to learn to level up. If you don't, you could find yourself displaced and people will start to talk about you. Organizations talk about people who are unwilling to move all day long. Like they may not tell you to your face, but they're talking about you if you
Hmm.
are not progressive all day long. So it's like, do you want to be that person, the one who's obstinate and in the way and want to do the opposite of what people say? People have to be getting very, very real. I mean, look, my reckoning with AI is I'm happy because, like I said, some people just need to get out of the sandbox, go do something else, go back to what your original major was, because you probably didn't major in advertising, as a lot of people in this industry didn't.
Or marketing. Okay.
Right, 100% didn't grow up in the business, but people have to have a hunger and a pursuit for intellectual capital.
Mm.
They have to maintain that insatiable appetite for intellectual curiosity, discovery. A lot of
Yeah,
people
I
don't.
was gonna say curiosity. That's pretty
Right,
good. That's
right.
pretty
So I always tell people, like, I'm always hungry. I'm never full. I can always eat. When it comes to this discipline, there are a lot of people who walk around bloated, and I'm like, seriously?
good.
So you have to find
You
crafty
get
ways.
bloated.
You have to find crafty ways of moving people into the frame of
Probiotic.
accelerating what they know for the greater good of their own security and that of the client's business. And
Mhm.
you have to know how to move people, how to reach them. Because I think half of it is people just aren't able to say things in a way that move them. And I've spent more time figuring out how to get people to get off their seat and do
Yeah.
something.
You reminded me of, I have a business coach and a podcast coach. His name is David Shantz.
Okay.
And he used to always say, like, which one would you rather be, ignorant or stubborn? And I used to think, like, I don't want to be ignorant, maybe stubborn, but he broke it down this way. Ignorant is like you lacking of the knowledge. Stubborn is you have the knowledge, but you ain't doing nothing about it.
Right.
So I would rather be ignorant because I know that I can acquire this knowledge eventually. Like you said, like always being hungry, always being curious, always going for that answer, the knowledge. But like knowledge is nothing if it's just gonna capture dust and not do nothing with it. It's a waste. And so, what action are you going to take to implement and really activate this knowledge? And so, ignorant people and stubborn people, that's the difference. Like, stubborn is the people you're describing. It's like, you know, you should be doing better, but you're too, your ego is maybe higher than it should be. You're overconfident about your capabilities, and that's okay sometimes. But like the biggest hurt is what you said is like if you're not going to do nothing about it, not you're not going to ask for help. I feel like asking for help is such a. I had to learn from being a mom and a woman asking for help. Now I stay asking for help. I stay asking for help. Can I pay you to help me? Go ahead. Just take my money right now. Take my money. Can you fold my laundry? Oh, help. Take my money. Can you copyright? Take my money. Do all of the stuff because then I gain space mentally, emotionally, and physically to do something else that I like to do or something that I need to do.
Right.
Training, educating, things like that. It's crazy. We have to be that way in our there's there's no like we can even get to the next topic at this point. Like there is no negotiation on this topic, y'all. If you're listening to our voices, you have to stay educating yourself. Sometimes it's as simple as reading one article. When was the last time you read anything? One thing, one thing. There are so many AI, which is the next thing I wanted to ask you about. There's so many AI that can recap the damn article, read it to you. Recap. I use one of them. I use several. I use ChatGPT to recap some of the articles I want to read, and I don't have time to, but I need to read. And then there's this other one that's called a Word Tune. You know what? I'm gonna add it in the description of the video and the show notes. It's called Word Tune, and it recaps everything, even a PDF, which is great. I love PDFs recappers. So talk about AI. How about I have my thoughts, pros and cons about AI in our industry. But before we even get to your perspective here, define AI for the programmatic world. Like, is it artificial intelligence? Is it automated intelligence, which I think it's right now is a lot of automation intelligence? Is it something else? How would you define AI to the people that are listening?
I like this word. The word is called savant. And
What is
the word
that?
savant, if
Mhm.
you've ever seen it, you hear it every now and then when someone says, like they'll say that this individual is a savant in this area. He's a
Oh yeah, it's is it based on the French word savant, which is wise man,
yes, exactly. Experience.
expert savant, yeah.
So what we're going to see is the rise of these savants, and some of it is going to be
These
platforms.
Instagram gurus, that's what my husband said. These Instagram gurus, that's
Exactly. No, it is. It's going to be tools. It's
yeah.
going to be enterprise tools, off the shelf tools. It's
Hmm.
going to be people on top of tools. So when you look at AI, it's going to be a rise of these savants, these intelligent agents
Hmm.
that either displace underperforming, underachieving workflow mechanisms people.
Hmm.
It's going to be that sit alongside people to accelerate what they do, and or it's going to push them to the top so they can focus more on discovery, ideation, and the bottom where of tedious stuff is done.
Hmm.
But a savant, metaphorically speaking, could emerge in any given domain. It
Hmm.
will be unbiased. So yeah, people are looking at ChatGPT. They're
Hmm.
looking at, AGI, artificial general intelligence, that is still machine and people reliant. What
Hmm.
they're not looking at is called agentic AI, that
What's that?
is fully autonomous.
Hmm.
It does not rely on people. So if you ever saw the movie Eagle Eye with Shia LaBeouf, where the machine starts getting people to carry out all these acts of war because it's basically trying to start World War III, that is agentic AI. There is no human input, no human reliance. It sees human behavior as a weakness.
Oh, like I Robot. Will Smith, I Robot did that too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Yes, 100%. So when people talk about what AI is going to be, and it's the idea it's going to be in everything. Remember, AI was programmed with childlike curiosity.
Mhm.
So, what does your toddler get into? Everything. And some of the things it wants to with your assistant as parents, and some of it he gets into autonomously, and some of it gets into it doesn't tell you. Like that is if you're programming something with childlike curiosity, that is infinite. The difference is that still has constraints. The
Mhm.
average kid isn't sitting there and saying, "Oh my God, I wonder if there are deer outside right now. Let me go unlock the door and go outside and observe." It's still permissioning. Like, mommy, can I go outside? Mommy, are deer out? Like, it's asking all these questions, it's prompting you
Mhm.
for governance. You still are maintaining the management of the frontal cerebral cortex. And by the way, parents, stop outsourcing that to YouTube. That's dangerous. But the AI that's being worked on is the one that's not reliant on that because it's been programmed to think for itself. And we're going to see all facets of it across the spectrum. Look, you go to Wikipedia and type in artificial intelligence, you'll get like 60, 70
Oh yeah,
derivatives.
for sure. Mhm.
So the average person knows one and a half. So
Mhm.
when you activate all 60, what are we talking about? So when I look at AI collapsing friction, things that human beings didn't want to do or
Okay.
could not do or would take forever to do, it's going to solve all that. So when I talk about the creative value chain, it's going to do things human input could never do, never efficiently, or never with the degree of credibility or statistical proof. It's going to do
Okay.
that. I think with the danger or the opportunity is really both is narrow AI. People who use artificial intelligence to solve that one problem or to carry out that one ugly deed.
Mhm.
That's what no one's talking about, the narrow AI. Like, oh my God, we were never able to do this. This would have changed everything. Now
Yeah.
we're starting to see that in biopharmaceuticals, where it's like, oh, AI can figure that out now. Humans never were going to get there in 1,000 years. The possibility is infinite. And that's when I say the value chain. It's going to get to a point, the logo on the front end, the DSP no longer matter.
Mhm.
The piping is what's going to matter. Right now, we're over PRing the logos,
Oh yeah.
not having conversations about who's in the piping,
Mhm.
what's in the piping,
Mhm.
and fixing that. Look, you watch NASCAR, all the cars look the same. It's a wind tunnel design. The only difference is the logo and the wrapper on it.
True. And the color. Oh yeah, the
Yes,
wrapper. There you go. The
right,
color of
right.
the
And
car.
the characters of the
Driver.
driver.
Sometimes
Right,
the driver matters. You know,
right. But
Formula One driver matters.
right, exactly. But it's the engineering inside the value chain that is the difference between dominating and never ever winning. And that is where programmatic as a discipline needs to go. The
Mhm.
difference is going to be the internals, and no one wants to talk about it because we are doubling down on constraints that are anti the truth. It's
Yeah.
like we want cheap CPMs, we don't want MFAs. Well, cheap CPMs, MFAs. You want a $5 CPM? You are reading in the MFA playground on purpose, intentionally. Brands don't realize that. They think you can really do both. No, not really.
Mhm.
So it's laughable. They're
Mhm.
saying one thing and doing everything on their end and not being transparent about it. Like that's the stuff I'm talking about,
Yeah.
where there's parts of the programmatic business that is absolutely a joke and a bit Ponzi scheme-ish. I think AI is going to start to slowly clean things up, and people are going to figure out they've been lied to.
Yeah, and I would love your perspective on the whole AI is going. I like how you said that it's going to replace the people that are not going to want to get on it, like get on that bus or that train.
Oh yeah, there are people who are going to rebuke the machine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there'll be factions of those people, and that they'll operate in an underverse, some of the world.
I don't know if you remember, but when I was well, you were not there, but when I was a trader, like in the trade desk, before COA existed, when COA came out, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago? I feel like it was longer than that. I don't remember a lot these days, but I specifically remember turning on Koa everywhere, and I was like, this is magical. It's going to help me do my job much better. I don't want to keep spending time uh playing with my bids on like down to what hour of the day should this site be bid on more than the other one. And that's what Koa does to some extent. Because I think she's female, she'll bid down on underperforming sites, let's say underperforming based on the KPI you set up. right? And I remember being a big fan of it, but the agency I was working with was like, hold up, partner, that's 20% of that CPM. It's a whole lot. Maybe that's why you're here, so that you that's your job to do it. And I remember thinking like, but I still have so much more. Like, I'm not gonna just hang out and start painting my nails at work, which was in an office at this time. That's impossible to do. It's like we still got so much more. Now that I know that this is eliminating some of the underperforming side based on what I set up, I can focus on a most brilliant analysis. And that's one of our most popular workshop, by the way, is like the optimization boot camps we do, is where we walk you through that Excel and we're like, if your AI is already doing this, cool, you can verify it this way, and it'll help you write your analysis much better because now you have this type of data coming through instead of your report having the average CPM is $12, the industry is at 6. You
Right.
know, like, no, now we have legit, like, our persona is this. You told us your audience reach was mom who like chai tea. It seems like mom who likes coffee at Starbucks, who plays mobile game in these hours, tend to respond better with your brand. They're engaging with it. It might not be converting right away, but that's a really important piece of information I can now spend time on instead of going in excluding your MFA sites that who cares? Like, the client don't even know what it is. And so what is your perspective on all of those people that say that AI is going to replace the trader? AI is going to replace this role. We're not going to have these roles in the next 5 years. I have a personal and professional opinion, but I'd love to hear how you would address this, knowing what you know.
Look, with the level and lack of thought process
Uh-huh.
that goes to trading, it
Mm-hmm.
can absolutely replace them.
Mm-hmm.
Look, if E-Trade, it's the
Uh-huh.
same software, is just taking your buy sell requests.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you need a human to be on the other end? It's like, I need this stock. I want to sell it when it hits this. Boom. I want to sell it today at the next trade window. Boom. You don't need human beings to do that. The machine can do that
For
with a
sure.
high degree of accuracy. In
Absolutely.
particular, you can give it parameters because people aren't working. You got to remember, if you want to build wealth, you got to go to Charles Schwab,
Mm-hmm.
Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Citi, Goldman Sachs. You don't go to E-Trade for institutional knowledge on generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to programmatic to try to build a brand that
Mm-hmm.
makes absolutely no sense. And they don't know how to do it and were never trained for it. As you say, didn't grow up in marketing. Never going to happen. Should that be replaced with machines? Absolutely. Now, you need someone on top of it,
Mm-hmm.
machines, who understands intent because all a brand wants is
Hello.
people with the highest level intent to buy their stuff. Should someone be on top of it, making sure the right types of inputs with the right context? Should
Mm-hmm.
they do it to make sure that bias is mitigated?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So the trader in their current form can absolutely be replaced by machines.
Mm-hmm.
What is required is someone to sit on top of them. Look, there is a reason Morgan Stanley owns E-Trade
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
I gave you the model.
They self-served it. Use your
Correct.
self-serve
You
it.
need you need advisors on top of people with money telling them what to do, for which E-Trade is part of the model of making money, but not the only model to make money. It's kind of like you need high-level people who understand the media ecosystem to steal attention, for which programmatic is part of the formula, not the formula. It's a
Mhm.
lie when people start acting like programmatic is going to drive and save your P&L. Let's think about it. Programmatic's been around. Most brands are in decline. Stackline says 53% of all brands are in decline. 53%. So that's over half are in decline. And this has been running for like 3, 4 years. So programmatic ain't killing it. You know why? Because it's a race to the bottom to find the cheapest clicker instead of finding people who have real intent to stay with the brand and build it for the next two
And
decades.
that's what I was saying. Building engagement means building that brand is it goes beyond just the technology. It has to go. We have to we have to refocus on the consumer at this point. And I'm one of them. And I always say like, hey, if I was this consumer, which I am, I would do this and that, and we get pushback, right? But you're one of them. Yes. If you go back to targeting that one person, there's
Right.
multiple of us that word of mouth again. It doesn't matter if I like blue, you like red. If I'm all shopping for, I don't know, a GNC brand, right? There's GNC vitamin. It's like we're back to that one thing, like you said, back to what you were saying. And I don't want the people to just go listen over what you just said, because if I have a highlighter, I would have highlighted everything you just said. Particularly, programmatic is not the formula, it's part of the formula. And it's part of your media mix. It's part of your marketing efforts. It's part of that advertising strategy. And if done right, it can absolutely help. Now, I agree with you when there are a lot of us in this industry that are tunnel vision. If it's not programmatic, it's nothing. And I'm like, maybe not that way. It's part of the bigger picture. And it's nothing else to add to this, right? It's part of the bigger picture. How can we make sure to maximize this one tool to really enhance this picture of us? Like, which leads into the final point I want to ask you. I know you talked about dynamic creative optimization earlier. Um, which again, I would love for you to help us redefine it the way it should be defined. Because we hear a lot of stuff in these streets, right? We hear a lot of stuff about creative. And creative, honestly, as a trader, never paid attention to creative. Ever. I was like, it's not part of my job description. I can't change it. I'm not a designer, so I'm just going to upload and continue. But there's a point in my career, and I will not mention the brand, where the creative that was sent to us had no button. And I think I mentioned that on the podcast before, but it had no button on it, right? It was a nice creative, it was sexy, no button. And it performed so poorly. I'm talking about it was a 5, 6 figure a month type of brand in programmatic channels. Performed poorly. CTR, I'm not going to talk about CTR, but there was almost non-existent clicks. We thought it was tagging in CM360. Well, at that time it was called DCM. It wasn't. Everything was set up perfectly. Multiple people have confirmed. It was a creative. It was shitty creative.
Yep.
We added a little blue button and instantly some people started clicking. CTR went up, which again, CTR is not a good indicator yet, right? But at that time it was. And then we started seeing conversion. Conversion, I think it was a purchase product. It was a retail brand, if I remember correctly. And then purchase started coming in, right? Because we were tracking their Shopify account.
100%.
Something like so fundamental and basic. So tell us about dynamic creative. Why should we go to dynamic creative?
Well,
Especially as a buyer,
yeah. Here's the bias I have. I work at a full service agency,
Hmm.
creative in-house. So
Okay.
technically you walked in the hall.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Media hocos fractured this off
Hmm.
with
Hmm.
silos,
Yep.
largely to drive up the rent and make money. So they don't talk. And then all the PR in the industry, the trade shows, Kansas at Ad Tech Takeover.
Hmm.
CES is a lot funded by media and ad tech.
Oh,
So
yeah,
all
for
of a sudden, ad tech has all the power. So
sure.
they get all the mojo, and people think that any machine can polish the turd better. They talk about advertising can't polish the turd. Well, programmatic swung at the idea of polishing these turds and was met with mixed results. And the
Hmm.
reality of it is human nature has not changed in tens of thousands of years.
Hmm.
We're what sticks to us, what is sticky, and I mean sticky like fear is sticky, gorilla glue is sticky. What is sticky is storytelling. It speaks to us, that connects with us, where
Hmm.
we see ourselves. We don't see ourselves in the machine like programmatic. We see ourselves in the creative, the narrative with the people.
Messaging. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got into a point where people are marginalized creative like it's a non-factor. Like programmatic can still win. You can spend much less money on that, less focus, less emphasis. And let's be clear:
Yeah.
the average creative shop does not understand digital because they're still being staffed by people who make TV spots. They don't
Yeah.
understand
That's a fact.
can't make it for reels, can't make it for shorts, can't
Uh-huh.
make it for streaming platforms. The
Hmm.
waterfall TV, and they think they get matching luggage, as Gary Vayner says, to every single channel. So I think people got fed up, like, you guys are mediocre. Like, you've yet to evolve. You've yet to compartmentalize the channels. You don't understand the creative rules of engagement. The
Hmm.
machines will fix this. You guys go away. Boo, bye.
Hmm.
And now we're at an impasse where the machines have plateaued to their level of effectiveness with what they have to work with and start with crappy storytelling. So we have to get to a point where we revisit creative,
Oh,
but
yeah.
we have to do it in a very intelligent way. The average brand is hamstrung with a number of assets. We need iterations. Why? Because we have a consumer personas. We don't have two consumer profiles. We could have 40 to 100 personas. Okay, so you need platforms that can come up with iterations of creative.
40 creative? Oh my
Right. Like give them one asset and the
God.
machine, AI, let's blame it on AI, came with all these variations that
Yeah.
didn't exist before. Now it is because nobody wants to argue with a creative director who thinks it should be this and a brand thinks it should be that. And they're all guessing. The machine is looking at the consumer because we don't look the consumer in the eye anymore and say, okay, we need to run these variations. It comes up with it dynamically. We run them and they get reported. But we also need to measure what is working in the creative. tone, imagery,
Mm.
call to action, or call to action that needs to be in there, messaging.
A button.
And that tells you, okay, based on the iterations, here's what's working within your iterations. Then we have to look at the supply pathing.
Mhm,
What creative is working against what supply path?
mhm.
Literally, like what should be running down this rabbit hole versus this versus that? The
Yeah.
piping, because not all creative can talk to all the piping. Then
Mhm.
we need to come back and measure holistically, where can you get attention with the creative you're running? Where can you steal mind share? And
I
then
do.
come back to the front of the line and change it. That
I
is the conversation that is not happening, but that's actually something I'm actually working on. The idea of putting together a collective of AI powered creative companies that you can go into the value chain, gut it, replace it.
Mhm.
Now the promise of programmatic can be actualized.
Yeah.
That is what's needed. Not this idea of, oh, do I like this? Do I like that? I'm feeling this. I'm not feeling that. The value pieces of the value chain need to be replaced. It's like putting a car up on the rack and saying, oh my God, it needs a whole new exhaust system. From catalytic converter to headers, the muffler, all the way, no one has to know we changed it, but this
Yeah.
car is going to run faster.
Yeah.
That is what's missing in programmatic. We need to start cleaning out the value chain and the dynamic creative optimization piece for your Instrumatics, your Adventure, your Anokis, your ad skates, like I said, your Adelaides, your Explain, your Lumens could change the entire internal conversation of this. That's what
And
we.
is that where I think the whole attention metric comes into play too? Because that's something I've been dabbing my like starting to learn about it. And I know it's the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, whichever. But the reality is that something like this has happened before. Like when attention metric came out, well, it's been around for a minute. But when it became more popular, okay, in conversation in the media, it reminded me of the whole viewability thing that came out blue many years ago. It reminded me before that a whole in-app mobile advertising is a new thing.
Yes.
Before in-app was a new thing, and then we remember, and then we realized like it was all clickbait. It was all now it's much better. Okay, much better. And I'm gonna give a shout out to my client in Mobi. If you want to do mobile focus in Mobi, hit him up. Free advertising for them. But when I saw attention metric, I was like, ah, deja vu. Let me wait on it. I want to see more. I want to hear more of other people trying it first. So what's your take for those people like myself that are waiting to see what others are saying about attention metrics, especially when it comes to programmatic creative engagement, what it really means? What's your what's your point of view? What should I do? Change my mind.
Well, my my Prague presentation was
Mhm.
programmatic attention.
Oh yeah, talk to us about it.
Yeah. The war is for attention in this world. All you got to do is watch a political race, a candidacy. Louis
Mm,
versus Gucci, Nike versus Adidas,
yeah.
LeBron versus Jordan. We love our rivalries, by the way. The
Mhm.
SEC versus the Big Ten. The war is for attention. It's
Mhm.
not a KPI. It's not a measurement. It's how we live. Your
Mhm.
your child, your toddler's vying for attention. It's a war. It's visceral, and you're trying to cook and do all these other things. That the war is for attention because it's been for attention past the ancient Romans, the Egyptians,
Mhm.
the Spaniards conquering a lot of the global populace. It's
Mhm.
all for attention because attention gets you influence, influence gets you power. Okay.
Mhm.
The problem is programmatic acts like it's exempt. No, the war is for attention. And the brands that have the most consumer attention, the
Mhm.
most influence, are
Yeah.
the most profitable.
Mhm.
Apple has the world's attention.
Mhm.
Google has had the world's, Amazon has the world's attention during the holiday
Right.
season.
No,
But some brands only get attention during the holiday season. You know what I'm saying? Because it's Black Friday and Cyber Monday. What are we talking about?
yeah.
So it's not a KPI. And look, people poo pooed it, and the people who poo pooed it have no vested interest in it because they don't even participate in the conversation based on their business model. Like retail media networks poo pooing attention. Dude, you need attention every day. People walk into your retail stores, so you don't go bankrupt and turn into Sears or J.C. Penney. What are we talking about? Walking in and spending a half an hour walking aisles is attention, people. That's the war. So when I sit there and look at it, brands need attention. And it's a complex, intricate formula
Yeah.
between running the right creative with the right messaging, with the right storytelling, with the right timing, with the right piping,
Cost. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
right supply path, with
Mhm.
the right people on the levers, looking at the right spectrum of measurement, being the right mindset of accountability
Yeah.
to tell you if attention is plausible based on what you're selling, when you're selling it, how you price it. You gotta understand, marketing's design is to facilitate the exchange of goods between a buyer and a seller.
Mm-hmm.
It's about creating a market opportunity, a market conversation.
Yeah.
You need attention to pull it off. If no one's there, did the tree fall in the forest? I didn't see it, and therefore I don't really care about it. Everybody needs to see the tree falling to cut it up as wood, to sell it as wood, to build a house. What are we talking about? And
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying about the idea of attention. It's bigger than these companies. It's bigger than a KPI.
Yeah.
It is what we do. And
Mm-hmm.
people need to figure out how to map it on top of everything. Because when brands are in meetings, all they're saying is, how do we steal more attention?
Mm-hmm. But I don't know if we're doubting that we need, oh, well, let me speak for myself. Well, not
Okay.
for people in the streets, but I don't doubt that attention is important. I think it's the most important, like you're saying. My doubt, or maybe my lack of understanding, comes where the measurement meets the actual results. It's like, how are we now measuring? Because again, just like viewability and in-app back in the days and way back in the days, we had to trust a third party partner to provide the measurement. Okay. And then the DSP caught up to a thing, now everybody, again, back to that tool inside the technology, everybody provides this type of measurement, but not at this time, not all technology provide the measurement. Why am I asking about measurement? Because at the end of the day, as a buyer, as a trader, even on the ad up side, on the sell side, if we're able to measure, we're able to show some level of success or failure, which both are important to measure. Okay, guys, it's not, don't only measure the success here. You got to measure the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then show how the changes that you're making based on that measurement can affect the P&L, the bottom line, or whatever the brand is looking to measure. And
Right.
so how is this whole thing measured at this time? Like
Well, let's look at this.
Adelaide.
Brands, if here's part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
The supply path in digital
Mm-hmm.
doesn't talk.
Mm-hmm.
It offers no intelligence, but the supply path in the real world
Mm-hmm.
says everything. We know where the best wines come from
Mm-hmm.
in the
Do
U.S. Napa Valley. By
we?
stigma, by bias, let's just say that.
I'm
But
kidding.
there are local wines all over the country now because
Right,
people
right.
figured out how to cultivate the soil
Mhm.
and the weather patterns are changing. We know where we can get avocados, Mexico.
Yeah.
We know who has some of the oldest vodka, Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the supply talking. We knew that Florida oranges and California oranges were the best in the U.S. Okay, now it's some of the best fruit comes out of Argentina. Like
Mm-hmm.
the physical supply is always talking. We know that fine leathers come from Italy. We know that the best engineered high performance cars come out of Italy. It's not some of the best engineers German, some of the best electronics are Japanese. That
Mm-hmm.
is the supply market talking. That's not even brands talking.
Mm-hmm.
That's supply saying
That's a
this is
fact.
what's the best at. It's like the best vacations are French
In
Polynesia,
Senegal, West Africa.
yeah, Mykonos, like south of anything, France, Spain, Italy, whatever. We like this is the supply talking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. However, when you get into digital and you ask any SSP,
Mm-hmm.
where's the best supply? They don't know. They don't know the best supply for Black, Latino, queer. They don't know the best supply for travelers. They don't know the best supply for automotive. They don't know the best supply for anything. The best supply is where attention can be best garnered to sell your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this. We're spending all this money, and the supply isn't telling us where to get the best of anything. So now we have to bolt on all these tools and measurements to figure it out, which, by the way, a lot of these SSPs know this information. They can't release it. And I don't even think it's for privacy reasons. I think they just decided we're just not going to lift the hood on supply because they're making money off ineffective supply.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they're able to broker part of the waste as being part of the problem instead of giving answers. There's no such thing as waste in sourcing crappy coffee beans from the wrong country.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to Colombia. We're going to Ethiopia. We're going to where the best is.
Mm-hmm.
Supply is talking. That's not happening in programmatic. That's a major folly of programmatic of not telling people where the good stuff or directing them and organizing it. So you got to bolt on all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
your SPO companies, your attention measurement, to start to learn what
Mm-hmm.
is the supply and where you're wasting money on attention you were never going to garner in the first place.
Yeah.
And that is why it's important to put these measures on
Mm-hmm.
because the SSP market is not turning on. I remember going through a demo of a DSP.
Hmm.
I said, how does this going to work? We turn on the world's exchanges. I'm like, we're going to turn on all the world's exchanges. When people are investing their money,
Wait,
the answer is just
that's a
turn
whole
on.
lot.
Right. Just put your money on all the different exchanges. NASDAQ, like, what are we talking? Nobody does that. They need a strategy.
Hmm.
Since the SSP marketplace is offering zero strategy,
Hmm.
they now have to go do it manually.
Yeah,
We're going
I
to watch AI figure this out.
yeah.
It could very much start displacing
Yeah.
supply pathing and major suppliers.
Well, I mean, you bring a good point. I mean, the SSP was supposed to be the pipe, the bridge between them. So, if you're watching this content, that means that you're trying to educate yourself and keep learning. Shout out to you. Thank you for engaging with my content. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing to our YouTube channel where I will be posting daily and weekly of this type of content. Now, if you want to receive it directly inside your work, your email, we have a newsletter for you. Make sure you sign up below. Here's another thing too. Once a month, I will be hosting free workshops with other experts in our industry. If you're interested in that one, we have a special wait list where you can join. And as soon as I open enrollment for those free workshops, you'll be the first to know. Because as always, seats are always counted for. Check the description below for more information. Thank you again for stopping by. Remember to like this video, like all of the content, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us, and maybe leave a review on iTunes. Thanks. I mean, you bring a good point. I mean, the SSP was supposed to be the pipe, the bridge between them, right? The SSP and the exchange. I'm just gonna group them together at this time. But it was supposed to be the bridge between the sell and the buy side. And
Yeah.
so, they've fulfilled, when we look at the fundamentals of what they're supposed to connect, they fulfilled the connection, right? And so I like what you said that SPO is not on the SSP side. It should be back on our side, the decision makers of
Well,
the buy.
honestly, it should be on the brand side. Let's think about it. You think a
Yeah, the
brand,
buy side. I'm
yeah.
blaming. I'm putting him on that side. Well, I don't know if the brand should take over this. I don't
No,
think
no,
they
the
realize.
brands need to enforce the philosophy because here's the
Right.
thing. If a
That's
brand is launching a business, it doesn't want crappy sourcing of the product, leather, tin can, aluminum, metal. What do
Mhm.
we talk about? Like they
Yeah.
want the best of the best of the best.
Yeah.
They're not saying that to agency holdcos. They're not saying that to platforms. I want the
No.
best of the best, and prove it to me. But they do that in the operations of their business. Do not do it in marketing. Do not do it in marketing as a discipline.
No.
That makes no sense. And in programmatic, it just abuses it because people assume the machines are so smart, but they're
Yeah.
still not as good as the people who program them, and the people who program them don't have intellectual range across the discipline. That
Yeah.
is the problem. You want to train a better trader, teach them marketing.
Oh yeah. Teach them. Yeah, I believe that strategy, how to connect the things, got to connect everything. Um, I had so many more questions, but I think we're coming back to our time. So we're gonna wrap it up here with those last two questions, right? If there's one thing you want everybody to do today, based on our conversation, we did touch on SPO, we did touch on AI, we touched on measurement and attention. So if there's one thing, it doesn't matter what it is, if there's one thing you want them to take out of this conversation and do tomorrow, what would that be? What would be your recommendation?
They need to be more intentional,
Mm.
or they will not find themselves in the
Okay.
business. Look, there is people are going to start moving some of these functions in offshoring like call centers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So because it's getting so normalized and there wasn't a tremendous amount of value that when you called companies and got an operator
Mm-hmm.
in the US as a specialized service we're giving you.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the stuff is in Manila. You always feel like you're calling the Philippines when you need to talk to some of these service providers, cable, cell phone, telco, whatever. Like, who am I talking to? Like, I'm here. I'm local. I'm in Maryland. Okay, we're going to start to watch buying capacities be moved offshore, and a lot of it had to do with there was no specialization of it anyway. So it was heavily commoditized in its thinking and its
Right, it's
level
like
of
machines,
activity.
offshore machines.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what people don't
And
understand,
they do a great job. And please, if you're one of those machines, we're not throwing any shades here. You do an excellent job. I have clients in India, Pakistan, and the Philippines and Singapore and they do an amazing job at being those machines. Okay,
Absolutely.
we
That's
need
but
people.
that's a very different formula than a
Yeah.
very different formula within the value chain.
Yep.
Marketing is still a specialized discipline. There's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with the machine, but again, where I say is where are these savants, whether
Hmm.
they are AI powered or they are people, the
Yeah.
business is lacking them
Yeah.
because they will make the machines, whether human or totally literal machines, more effective. People got to understand, Amazon employs more robots than humans.
Yeah. Yeah. Now
So,
he's trying to deliver some of them boxes
you're right. But
yeah.
in their back office, in their supply chain,
Hmm.
there's more robots employed than people.
Hmm.
That should tell everyone everything. If they have some ambition in their pursuit of their craft or career, you need to understand what's coming. And I
Yeah.
think that's my main thing that
Yeah.
people
They got
see.
to be intentional. I like that. You got to be intentional. So my last question to you is, what is one thing you know now that you wish you knew when you first got started? Like, what is one advice you want to give your freshman self about what you know now that you've acquired? Share it with us.
I wish that NVIDIA knew it was going to be the most powerful company on the planet and bought stock when it first IPO'd.
Yeah.
I wish that I knew Bitcoin would be at 100,000 so I could have bought it when it was 500 when it first started getting some noise.
Yeah,
And
for
here's
real.
the thing. It's the idea
Uh-huh.
that you have to take risk in this business,
Ooh,
calculated risk, safe bets
so
that
good.
pay off. And you have to do it when no one's looking. Meaning that I bought the Bitcoin and it bust, no one would have known because no, I did it. I would have done it when no one was looking and no one was talking about it.
Mhm.
People don't understand this business. You need to take risk when no one is looking because when all eyes are on you, everything is at stake, even you.
Mhm. I mean, there's a reason why real estate is still, what is it? Like the richest people in this on this planet, some of them, maybe not number one, number two, number three, but in the top 10, all have some serious real estate investment. Is that they take the risk. Some of them flop, some of them don't. So I love this example of what you're saying. Stock exchange is one of them. And I remember buying the trader stocks way back when, I think it was 2017 when they first went out public, and they send an email, since you are a user of the trade desk, just know that you can buy in at 70% of whatever. It was like $20. And I was like, I don't know how to do stock thing, but I think I bought like 20 shares.
Okay, okay.
Best thing ever. And we cashed it out to 4 or 5 years ago, and we reinvested in the company. And what we did, like where we are today, is because of that self fund and the investment what we took. It was from the stocks that I bought thanks to traders. This is not sponsored by the traders, by the way, but you have to take some risk, and you have to be patient. I think we get distracted with this all instant gratification thing, and I'm like, some things needs to come tomorrow, like those Christmas presents I just ordered, because it got to come. But other thing is, like, you gotta wait. Maybe it's lack of preparation right on my end. But some things comes when you wait, and it's okay. It's okay to chill for a second. It's great advice. Thank you so much, Albert, for making the time to stop by. Definitely appreciate your wisdom and especially your guidance. I think you are amazing. If you're not following Albert on LinkedIn, please do. And I'll have all his information on in the show notes, in the video description on YouTube. But if they wanted to reach out to you directly outside of LinkedIn, how can they do so?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
I
He's
mean, look,
outside LinkedIn. You stay on LinkedIn, sis.
yeah. If people ping me, then I always reach out to call fireside chats like this. Look, I'm one of these people. Buy into how I think first,
Mhm.
and then you can decide for yourself
Oh,
if
of
that's
course.
what you want to rock with. I
No,
think a lot of times people don't. I like to set the frame,
mhm.
like the narrative. Let's chop it up.
Yeah, I mean, you're a wealth of knowledge, and I see your videos on LinkedIn, so shout out to you. And I see you put in some work. So can't wait for 2025. You'll have our support, our love, our encouragement. And then this is not the last time you'll hear Albert. We have some pretty exciting projects in the works. So stay tuned and definitely go follow him on LinkedIn because you won't regret it.